Hello and welcome to this short video on data science and human behavior, a new professional master's program from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. My name is Tim Rogers. I'm the program director and a professor of psychology at UW-Madison, and I'd like to also introduce you to Caitlin Iverson, the program manager, and Pat Walsh, the enrollment coach, both of whom have scads of information if you'd like to contact them at the email addresses shown. In this webinar, here's what we'll cover. I'm going to tell you what data science is and why you should care. I'd like to tell you what makes our program different from other programs across the country. I'll explain a little bit about how it works, and then I'll tell you some next steps for applying. What is data science? When I first heard this term, I was confused. I thought, doesn't all science involve data? Well, of course it does. You know from your own studies that in the science of human behavior, most data comes from either controlled experiments or carefully designed surveys, cases where we kind of know ahead of time what data we want, and we take special measures to get exactly the data we need, and we know how we're going to analyze it in future. But increasingly, with today's technologies, we can get access to vast organic sources of data that are very different in how they're structured. I'm thinking of things like social networks, Twitter and Facebook, where you can see who's friends with who, what kinds of messages they like to share, what kinds of images they like to post, or natural language. So sites like Wikipedia or Reddit or even a blog where people generate natural language that can be used to solve a whole variety of problems pertaining to the nature of language and what people believe. Or what about biometrics? So devices like Fitbit, which tell us a lot about the state of your body over the course of the day. Or mobility data from services like Uber, who happen to know who's going where every second of every day all across the globe. Or fantastic new imaging technologies like brain imaging, which provides thousands of measurements every second in a single study. Or even large government data sets like the census or other data sets such as who's in prison or who's on welfare, which give us all kinds of information about the people who live in our country in each and every component of it. Now, those data sets are different from the kinds of data that we collect in experiments because they're huge and they're unstructured. They just kind of arise. We didn't plan to collect certain kinds of data, and so we don't know ahead of time how we should analyze it. And that's what data science is all about. Data wrangling. How do you even access these giant data sets? Or how do you store them on some computer or manipulate them in some software program? Or machine learning. What techniques exist for finding useful patterns in those giant data sets? Data visualization. Once you've found those patterns, how can you summarize the key important parts to communicate the central insights to yourself and others? Data interpretation. Understanding and explaining the key points and how they relate to the problem that you're trying to solve. And finally, action. How can you develop solutions for applied problems on the basis of the understanding that you got from this giant data set? So that's what data science is. Why should you care? Well, here's one reason from the Harvard Business Review in 2012. Data scientists, the sexiest job of the 21st century. Meet the people who can coax treasure out of messy, unstructured data, right? That's what data science is. Now, this article made a big splash when it came out, but it turned out to be pretty prophetic. If we just look at the last year, what we see is that the demand for data scientists has increased by 50% in 2020 across health, communications, media, entertainment, finance, insurance, and telecommunications industries. Essentially all industries that require us to understand human behavior. Data science is in the top 20 fastest growing occupations, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And it's the fastest growing occupation for the past 3 years on LinkedIn's Emerging Jobs Report, with 37% growth in 2020 alone. The demand for data science and big data skills is projected to grow by 30% over the next 2 years, according to Markets and Markets Report. And what's really interesting is that that demand is present in all sectors, including large and small businesses, but also government and nonprofit sectors. So no matter what your interests are in a career, It's going to require data scientists. So what makes our program different? Why should you apply here as opposed to somewhere else? Well, most programs in data science are actually targeting computer science or statistics majors. That is to say, people who already have programming and quantitative skills, but they lack grounding in social sciences that are critical to many problems. Our program flips the script. We provide direct, hands-on training in data science programming concepts and methods specifically tailored to suit people who have social science backgrounds. So as a consequence, our graduates will understand how to apply data science methods to solve real problems that are related to individual and collective human behavior. That is to say, some of the most common problems in every sector. How does the program work? Well, it's an accelerated master's program. What that means is that it unfolds over the fall semester, the spring semester, summer semester, and one more fall semester. A total of 16 months of continuous training, 33 credits of training over that time, with tuition at $1,200 per credit. And what happens over those 16 months? Well, in the fall semester, there will be 2 required courses, one, an introduction to statistics and human behavior, and one, an introduction to programming for data science and human behavior. There's also an elective that allows you to tailor your education to the specific topic that you're interested in, as well as a professional development seminar where we talk about how data science and human behavior unfold in the wild. In the spring semester, there's a second course on statistics, more advanced statistics, as well as a required course on applied machine learning for data science and human behavior, and a second elective giving you a little bit more flexibility for your specific training. The professional development seminar also continues over the spring semester. And in that case, we will hear from partners about their missions and the kinds of problems that data science and human behavior can actually solve. Over the summer semester, there's just one required course, large-scale data science and human behavior, as well as the ongoing professional development seminar. But in the summer, you'll be spending the bulk of your time on an additional activity, specifically initiating a hands-on capstone project, working together in small teams under the guidance of faculty and PhD mentors. What kinds of projects? Well, basically, you will be applying data science methods that you learned about in class to solve some real-world problem in industry, government, or nonprofit sectors in collaboration with an external partner or an internal partner. Now, the summertime is the opportunity for you to acquire new project-specific skills, skills that may not have been covered in your classes, but are specifically tailored to the particular hands-on project that you want to learn about under the guidance of faculty and PhD mentors. So that by the time you reach the second fall semester, you can spend all of your training time completing the capstone project, working together again in small teams and again in collaboration with external or internal partners. The idea here is to give you experience working directly with the partner to solve the problem in a non-academic environment so that you know what it's like to work outside of the academy and on a project that will produce some tangible product and some entry that you can use on your resume, as well as giving you networking and contact with people in the field, all things that will be assets when you enter the job market at the end of your degree. So, if you'd like to apply to the program, what do you need to do to prepare? Well, it's pretty simple. Here are the materials that you need: a resume or a CV, a statement of purpose, just one page explaining your interest in the program, and a copy of your transcripts. Also, if you're an international student, we need TOEFL or IELTS scores if you come from a different country and you're not a native English speaker. The deadline for applying is March 31st, 2022, and we will be considering applications on a rolling basis at that time. If you're wondering whether this program is for you, it's a good time to talk to Pat Walsh, the enrollment coach who I introduced at the beginning of this little video. Pat can help in multiple ways: eligibility review, application support, career advising, statement of purpose coaching, and financial aid guidance, even veterans benefits guidance. So with that, I want to thank you for your attention, and we hope to see you here at UW-Madison in the fall.